welcome to Practically Magic. I am Courtney Pearl, your Celtic priestess and ancestral healer. Today is going to be a very extra special episode. You are going to be particularly interested if you are watching the video. So if you typically listen on audio, I would suggest popping over or waiting till later and go check out the video on YouTube, because I am going to be taking this podcast to my tattoo artist for my tattoo appointment. I know. When I first started seeing Liberty, we just had so much in common and so many really cool in-depth conversations about spirituality and ancestral healing and connection and traditions. And I was like, why am I not recording this? This is excellent stuff. So while I made an appointment to go in today, I reached out to her and said, would you be a guest on my podcast and record with me while you are tattooing me? Oh, fantastic. So this is actually going to be a really cool episode, and we're going to head there next. But what I'm going to do before we do that is pull a card for today's episode. I'm actually going to pull two cards for this episode today, because I'm going to pull out my magical Nordic tarot deck as we're talking about ancestral things a little bit. And that will come up along with many other things that we're just going to see where the conversation takes us. But I have some Nordic ancestry, and so does Liberty. We've talked about that before. So I want to pull a card from this particular deck. And then I'm also going to pull a card from one of my new Oracle decks. So, very interesting. The card that we have for today's episode is going to be the Two of Wands. And the word that this particular deck has associated with the Two of Wands is unity. So in that aspect, it's going to be very fascinating to see all of these aspects of our lives that we find separated or in conflict with each other are coming into a phase of really being united. It's interesting because even Liberty will talk a little bit about her ancestral past and how she comes from, on her father's side and her mother's side, come from very different parts of the world, and obviously came in connection for her to become who she is. But a lot of people are coming into connection not just from a cultural aspect or an ancestral aspect, but we're also talking a lot right now about the unity between the ancestral practices, or remembering and reclaiming that, and in combination with modern day things, in coming into what does that look like for us as we navigate this modern world, as we come into the age of information and technology, and then, and then beyond that, where is this all leading us to? So then the Two of Wands I often associate with beginnings of things and this duality of things. And in particular, the wand part of the tarot I associate with the air element, or communication and mentality. So I think for me, I am reading this card to be a message to you that things that were previously seen as opposites, or it's either this way or this way, you are going to come into a space of unity with those two ideas. That it isn't one or the other, that sometimes it's some in between, some both aspect of this. The pendulum that swung far out one way or swung far out another way, it's going to come into balance a little bit more with those two dualities, especially when coming to the idea of those two ideas, it's going to come together. Now, the other deck I have for us today is going to be the Healing Spirits. I just got this deck recently, and this is an Oracle deck, so it's going to be very plain and clear about which card it's going to bring forward for us. These ones actually just have a phrase on the card, so you don't have to do a whole lot of reading into it, but it's going to tell you something. So what I've pulled for us today, and I will show you on video what this card looks like. It has a lot of red. It has kind of what looks to be a younger child's soul in all of this red, ethereal sort of image. And then it has kind of what I perceive to be an older person or an older soul that's like guiding the younger soul. And it says, it is always okay to ask for guidance when the way is unclear. We cannot do this journey alone. I think that tapping into your own intuition and your own connections is really powerful. It's very empowering. And I hope that in the work that I do, I am more someone who can help people be empowered to make choices and to know their path for themselves. But also, the realm of guidance and people who can guide us exists too. My job or my purpose or fulfilling my role and calling in this world is not to say I know better than anyone else, but that because of the knowledge and experience that I have put at the forefront of my life, hopefully gives me some abilities and some gifts to be able to guide people through. And so I am not always going to know the right and clear path for me because I have my own ego and I have my own traumas and experiences that catch me in my journey and make me feel lost or confused. I cannot see all solutions. I cannot see all paths. So I have to be willing to set my ego aside at times and be able to say, I'm going to need some guidance or help in this, and seeking a healer, seeking a professional, or seeking a guide in something that I need to do. So don't be afraid if at any point you feel like I've done all of this healing work. I've done a lot on myself to empower myself and to feel like I know what's right for me. But when I come up against something I don't know what to do or I feel out of my element, don't be afraid to reach out. And it may be reaching out to something or someone that is not in this physical realm. Spirit guides, your angels, whatever you particularly happen to believe in, they are there for the purpose of guiding you as well. So that's what I think that card is going to give us a sense of today as we go into our episode. Let's go on over to the appointment this morning. We're going to go over to Exodus, that is over in South Jordan on Redwood Road, and we are going to meet with Liberty. I'm so excited. Here we go. This is Liberty. She's going to be doing my tattoo today. My tattoo that's not here.
And then we're not there. I'm just kidding. That's a figment of your imagination. All right. 1 second.
This will be great. A lot of people, though, have been telling me, they're like, oh my gosh, that's fresh. That looks so good.
How do you feel about it?
I feel great about it.
Good.
I think there was just like maybe a day or a moment after I first got both of them. I think that I was like, oh my gosh, these are on my body now forever. There was just this like
almost regret, like a pang of
it's like, yeah, but it's not regret because I'm like, I know I don't regret it, but there was just this like, that wasn't on my body before, and now it is forever.
I feel like, so for us, oh man, here I go. For us who are a little bit twisted,
that's fair.
It's like an addiction because you almost get adjusted to it. And then you kind of just keep building. Like,
and you're like, what else?
Yeah, it's almost next? Like you're blind to what you already have. And then you're like, oh, but I need to have something. And then you become blind to that. And then, oh, I need to have something. And then you're blind to that. And then before you know it,
that makes sense.
You're covered with sharks. And
yeah. Yeah. I can see it.
Ready?
Yes. Ready. Now I know what to expect. So,
remind me, was Is this your first tattoo?
That is my first tattoo.
I had to catch myself. So remind me.
We are working on my first tattoo.
Yeah, what's your... remind me what your initial purpose for this is.
Yeah,
why.
so this is the one that I've had on my idea for the last 10 years probably. I have this necklace. So for those of you who just listen to audio only, this episode's going to be a go to YouTube episode. You're going to need to go see what we're doing. But I had a Celtic tree necklace that I loved for a long time. I actually lost the original. This is the second one. But loved the design, loved the imagery of it. And then I started getting into Celtic spirituality and mythology. And then it was like, I've got to have this on my body. So it took this long for me to finally do it. And I needed to find an artist that I felt understood the initiation process, which is why I went to Liberty. She understands cultural tattoos. Do you want to tell a little bit about your background on that?
The initiation process is such a cultural phenomenon that we kind of left behind, isn't it? Mm-hmm. In a way, it's not socially practiced anymore on like the large scale.
Yeah, but you probably get even people who maybe wouldn't classify themselves as spiritual, or when they do get a tattoo and they maybe initially did it just for aesthetics. Mm-hmm. It is, I think they go through an initiation. I think so too. Getting a tattoo.
Your sphere, your social, your people, your tribe that you have built up, and then you go get a marking and they acknowledge it, right? Is that not the basis of like a initiation? So my connection to this practice is, so I've been an artist since my whole life. And my dad's from Tongan, and my mom is from Utah. Her family's been here for some time, very, how would you say, Caucasian. That's,
it's okay. You can say it. Whitewashed,
and here's the
vanilla.
Thing is, I think,
that's me.
My family's been in Utah for some time, and they have a rich, beautiful history, right? There's a lot of darkness in that too, but like, I don't know, as all cultures do. I'm not gonna discount one side over the other, for sure. I think I don't know. There's a lot of, I'm not quite sure how to word that. There's a lot of conversations we had in that subject, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah. Which is why I have like 50 episodes of my podcast to talk about.
I can spur off in so many different ways with this, but
it's complex for sure.
It's complex, yes. My purpose for tattooing is connected more to my father's culture, which is from Tonga, and there's a lot of maybe lost practice in our culture from the last 200 years, and me getting into tattooing was kind of a calling, if you will, to use my talents and my skill sets to help bring something back. And in that, doing something for that part of my culture, I found kind of like just the connection to all humanity, right? Like we all have ancestors who did this at one point. It's not just one culture. It is the culture of humankind to practice something, marking, initiation,
marking the body. It's like drumming.
Something. Yeah.
You can't find a culture that in some, you go back far enough, drumming was an incredibly spiritual practice of,
connecting with the sound and a beat, a heartbeat, a beat within a community, right? It's like exactly. Dance, music, art, I think that those are all symptoms of humankind from the beginning.
I felt that everyone is kind of going through a shift of reclaiming that.
Yes.
And if they're not, I feel like they're resisting it hardcore.
Right.
But for those who are awakened to it, those that are like willing to see that, they're wanting to re-engage with those like ancient practices of their people. And like, I want to reclaim that. I want to remember what that was.
I think there's a lot of us who feel it still within us. We feel something that's not being practiced, and we're drawn to it. You know, you have a talent, right? If you tend to, I see a drawing that I really like. Oh, I want to recreate that, and you try to find a way within yourself to create it. That's honing a skill. That's honing an art. That's but like I think there's a lot of dormant cultural practice that we feel, and it comes out in skill sets. It's still alive in us.
Yes.
And we're just trying to find it.
And it drives purpose and passion. I've been having conversations like that a lot with people, especially because we're the Daybreak Network. There's a lot of people starting their own things and leaving their corporate jobs, and they're like, I know I can make money doing this or like having this job, but there's so many that are coming to us in our groups and community and saying, I just feel a passion for this. And I like,
money
I really want to do
the
this.
Drive anymore.
Yeah.
It's something deeper.
Yeah. And we're all tired, I think, of sacrificing.
Well, let's
what
think
we
about
feel like
that.
Is our purpose.
That's a whole other deep rabbit hole we could follow down is like how unnatural it is to live the way we are, we're raised to believe we should be living. Working to retire one day and eventually live. I don't know. I think that's a backwards way of thinking.
That's like the parable. Maybe I told you this. The one with the fishing, the guys fishing. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to mess it up because I'm trying to remember it. But they, I think there's like a group of guys in Italy or something, and they fish all morning. They sell their fish in the afternoon, and then, they hang out with their families and they, do their thing. And these like businessmen come and say, if you fish all day, you would have enough money to buy a boat and hire some people and then start your company. And then you would have this and you'd have this and you'd have this. Like if you just work harder, and then you would have, $1 million and sell your company, one day. And then they were like, and then what? What would I do then? And they're like, well, then you could just like fish for half the day and hang out with your family. And they're like, we do that anyway. We're just going to keep doing that and be happy.
I think that's actually just something very relatable within my culture is in the islands, particularly I'm going to speak on my father's behalf. He grew up in a thatched hut, he grew up in a pre-modern experience society. When he came to the U.S. in the 70s, he had left that home. He had left his community with it looking one way. And now he hasn't been back. Now he can see it on Google Maps and stuff. And it's almost like an entirely different, it's modernized, it's something new. And I can't help but think, we've had these conversations with my father where, it was a simple life and he worked so hard to build something modern and this new legacy for his family. And, now we all talk about, let's go and do this basic, simple living.
Yeah, let's go live in a thatched house and hang out on beaches. And
that is the dream, right? When I was younger,
sign me up.
Engaged and about ready to start my life, I had spoken to my dad about, I would like to go to Tongan for our honeymoon. He's like, you don't want to go there. You live in paradise. Why would you want to go there? But it's like my view of Tonga is paradise. His view is he kind of got away from it to get to paradise. This is his paradise.
Yeah.
So it's a very,
the conveniences of modern living and stuff. But I can see both perspectives, and that's, again, the grass is always greener, kind of a thing. But we're all trying to reclaim that and get back to that and be like, remember when we didn't have phones that could get a hold of us like everywhere all the time?
Right.
It's just kind of that unplug is our vacation.
But when you live in that completely unplugged from the modern, what's considered to be upscale modern first world, you are a have-not. You are living without.
Yeah.
So your dream is to have what the rest of the world, this upper level of living has. But, I think it's the concept of who has the upper living, who actually is living versus working to live. I don't know.
Very true. And that's, balance. Hopefully we can get back to balance where we swing the pendulum too far one way.
Yeah, right.
And you, did you tell me that you had gotten a tattoo like in the old traditional way?
So that's actually something that was like a catalyst in getting me into the tattoo world. So being an artist my whole life, I kind of always just avoided it. The tattoo industry seemed so unappealing to me, too dark, too angry, too this, too that. I just knew with my personality, the struggles of my life, that wasn't the type of energy I wanted to be in, because being in that energy would make me that energy. So I was just kind of avoided it. People would tell me all the time, you need a tattoo, you need to bring your talent into this. But I literally just avoided it like the plague. And then, so growing up, it's always been a conversation piece in the Polynesian community here in Utah, and maybe mostly the Hafakasi, which are the half-bloods, us Wongans, us half-bloods, always wishing to have a connection to this, culture. But there's always been murmurs and talks of people bringing back the old way, the old traditional way of tattooing, which was hand tapped tattoos.
Yeah.
And, me being in Utah, not growing up in the islands, not growing up in Hawaii, I always heard of these things, these people doing it, and just looking up to it. My brothers and I would talk about it. And then I'm trying to figure out how this went. In 2020, we had a trip to Hawaii planned. But, of course, it got canceled because the world experienced COVID.
The apocalypse, yeah.
And so in 2021, was it 2021 or 2022? I don't remember. We finally had that trip. And during that time, I was thinking, during the time of not living in the world, right, with COVID happening, I kind of knew I want to do something significant when I finally do make it back. So in 2021, when we planned our trip, we kind of made a last-minute plan. It was January when we made the plan, and the tickets were for March. It was kind of a quick turnaround-ish for us anyways. I had kind of on a whim just looked up if there was traditional tattoos happening in Hawaii, in Oahu, when we were going. And I saw that there was. And so I just started reaching out. My first choice was to Keone Nunes, Uluwapi Keone Nunes. I reached out to him to see if he was doing it and had an availability, and he responded back very quickly and said, unfortunately, he doesn't live there anymore. He lives in Thailand, but but that response, that choice to send that message, and then his quick response was kind of the kickoff to finding that he has a graduate doing it there, and to reach out to him. So I did. I reached out to Kamali'i, and we began the process to their protocol, to receive my markings. Ultimately, I did. I got to experience the Ava ceremony and laying on the mat and receiving my markings, and understanding how the markings symbolize my journey in this world and my lineage and connection to the land and my purpose. So yeah, it was a rebirth, if you will.
Yes.
And when I left, I remember sending a message when I came home. So I remember sending a message to Kione saying, I hope you teach somebody in the Tongan community so that we can revive it within this community, you know?
Yeah.
And literally after pushing send, I was sitting there realizing, oh, that needs to be me. Like, I just need to do this. So
Calling.
yeah, that was my second rebirth moment was, oh, I do belong in this situation, in this industry. I do have a purpose in this. I have skill sets that can get me somewhere, that can do something for my community. And, you know, before I feel like it was a little bit skewed to just my community. Now being, you know, getting a great apprenticeship with a great group of artists here at Exodus Tattoo, I realized it's not just my community, you know, my Tongan community. It's a much broader experience of just human culture, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's my seeking someone out was more like, I need someone I know and feel and trust, understands that part of it. So even not even knowing all of that, which I did not know, but I'm like, I know that this is going to be the experience I want to have. And this is, you know, I've waited so long.
Yeah. How did you know that? I'd love to hear this.
Well, I think in just seeing some of the art that you'd already done, some tattoos that you'd done, I was like, oh, okay. I'm ready. This is it. Yeah. Like, I'm ready to get this on the schedule. I had said I was going to get a tattoo, the tattoos I'd wanted for a long time already. I'm like, 2024 is my year. I'm doing it. And then 2024 came and went, and, you know, New Year's happened, and I was like, oh, shoot.
Oh, well, that one. Yeah.
I didn't even keep the promise to myself. So it was kind of just like, okay, it's happening. It's got to happen now. I have to do this.
Did you see me in the Daybreak page? Is that?
One of our mutual friends had done a tattoo with you, and I think they posted pictures, and then I think I just started looking at your stuff, your profile, and pictures and stuff, and I thought, okay, good, this feels right. Not that I could, like, in my Celtic spirituality, go out and find a Celtic tattoo artist. I mean,
maybe
they probably are out there.
Yeah, maybe.
But like you said, it's human.
Yeah.
You know, and I would never come and get a Tongan tattoo when I'm not Tongan. So I wanted to be respectful of, you know, and someone who understands that that's, you know, respectful of our ancestral heritage and where we come from. And, but it was like that for me too. I think a lot of people, a rebirth, like for me, I had set certain standards about my work as a priestess, and like I wasn't just going to go out and get these tattoos just
from anyone. Like, here, I'm going to give you these markings.
Yeah,
you need to find somebody who like treats them as sacred as you treat them, right?
Yeah, because for me it was a process of, have I studied, have I worked, have I learned, do I understand what the meaning of the tattoo is? You're
following your own protocol.
Yeah. And it's not that there is anyone else telling me like, this is what you have to have in order to do this. But I laid it out for myself, and I was ready for that. This one I've been thinking about for almost 10 years. And then the other one, which we'll show, was only in the last couple of years.
Oh, okay.
That I was like, okay, that's the other one.
Did you always know there was going to be two? Or feel there was going to be two?
I think I did, because I think, and we worked on this one. I'm totally revealing. We did this, we worked on this one, and then it was a few weeks before we did the other one. And so I had one for a while, and I did feel like during that time, like, I'm imbalanced. I need, like, it's incomplete. Almost as if they are the same part of the same tattoo, but they're two different places, but just that they were meant to be together.
They were meant to be together, yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and you're very intuitive naturally. We've talked about her very empathic, open-minded connection to spirit and spiritual realms, and
I don't even fully understand it.
Doesn't understand it, but she's totally like, we've had conversations during tattooing where she's like, I see, I feel, I know. And I'm like, that is exactly right. This is exactly how it is. Most people can do that, but don't trust it enough.
I think something that I've experienced is that I just didn't know that it wasn't a thing that everyone experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I started
Get that.
Experiencing kind of more significant levels of it,
mm-hmm.
and being around others who have more education on it while I was going through these experiences, and they're telling me like, whoa,
yeah,
you should do this more. It kind of clicked in like, oh, this is something special to me, for me, that I should explore more and not just discount it as, oh, everybody dreams like this. Oh, everybody does this.
Astral projects and astral travels during sleep and things like that, which I think everybody does in some sense or another. They just maybe don't, and everyone's different in how they experience it. But I was similar in that I've probably always been very much in a spiritual realm my whole life, and I didn't know that that's not something that everybody experiences. So I'm like, you guys all, pretend this or that, or visualize this, or see these things when you're out and about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the energy of trees. You guys all can see and feel energy of trees, right? And people are like, that's weird, Courtney.
That's really cool.
You're a strange person. I'm like, oh, I am. But I remember being a small kid, and when I didn't have any friends to play with, I would go climb trees, and then I would talk to the trees, and the trees would be my friends. So I was like never lonely, because I was like, well, I'm playing with the trees today. And
you were always connected to the life source of Earth.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was just what everybody did. You guys all don't do that?
Actually, so this is, I recently had a conversation with somebody here where they were talking about, how they wanted to understand if there are colors that help you feel. And I was like, well, of course.
Mm-hmm. That's my whole work. That's all I do.
I feel all the colors. And he's like, what are you saying? And so we dug into that, and he's like, I just want you to know that not everybody feels it. I'm like, wait, what?
I'm like, well, they can.
It's interesting. Yeah.
It's possible. Yeah.
Feeling
That's
colors.
all of the work that I do with healing work is I'll be like, what color is it? What color is the feeling you're having? What connections, are we making there? That's how we do the healing through art. We paint out our colors and our feelings.
Exactly.
And people are tapped into it when they are allowed to be. They're more tapped into it than they think they are.
Yeah.
Because they'll look at me kind of strange when I say, what color is it? They go, color? I'm talking about emotions. Right. And I'm like, just what color is it? Just first thing that comes to your mind. Color, and they're like, I guess it's orange. And then I'm like, okay, here's what I know about that. And then we'll move through the energy that way. And you, not even having studied energy work necessarily, in talking to your clients while they're getting a tattoo and asking, what does this tattoo mean to you, and how and then you're infusing that as you tattoo, which I think is incredible. It's energy work.
Yeah. I mean, in the Polynesian culture, there's this, it's called mana. I mean, in the old days, only the sacred chiefs were allowed to have and use and obtain mana. It was a force. And, of course, there was different levels of stealing each other's mana. It gets a little extreme and dark in that conversation. But mana is a power. It's an energy. And something, in the modern day, what I'm doing here is how do I put this? I have a lot of energy. I have booming energy that I can share. And I like to think of what I do as like an energy exchange here. You know, this is a transaction of sorts in sharing mana. And, you know, you come to me to spill your blood willingly and share your blood with me, and I'm sharing with you, you know, a new form of yourself when you leave. And, yeah, mana. That's what we kind of call it. So
I love that. Incredible. I think intuitively your DNA knew.
Oh, yeah.
You knew.
I think this is something passed on to me for sure.
That. Incredible.
And doing genealogy work, back to my culture, a lot of our history was passed down through oral tradition. It wasn't passed down through records, you know, written record. Written record is such a more modern European approach to history. So in doing genealogy, I've found and consumed a lot of oral record that has been put down in written record nowadays of my lineages. And so I have been able to learn of what my ancestors possessed in their mana and how they managed the world around them at the time. And it's an immediate opportunity to like relate it to who I am and where I came from, and what they passed on to me. And I can't help but being a person who is connected to a more spiritual life experience, I can't help but like think of it as a inheritance, right? I inherited this big booming energy from my ancestors.
For sure.
I think we all have that, right? But you kind of have to be just open to tapping into it, or maybe nurturing that it's there already.
Yeah. Some kind of a passion or drive, even just a curiosity. I think that more and more people are coming around to that.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's demographics of people that haven't awakened to it yet, but I think that they're grasping so strongly to maybe modern things that they're just like, no, I can't
well, I think a lot
answer that call. It's like, I don't want things to change and I don't want to look at that. And so I'm just going to hold tight to what I have.
There's a lot of guilt in straying from religion and faith. You know, they almost see it as something against faith.
Threatening to that,
or against their reality. And it keeps them from exploring it. I don't know that it needs to be against somebody's religion or...
Yeah. And it's a lot of people in the circles of people that I know that are, you know, reclaiming their ancestry. They have Northern European ancestry that they're connecting with. And then they have, you know, like you, another side. So you're kind of coming to a marriage of both in the respect of both, while they're also sometimes...
There's so many parallels.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think it comes down to belief. I think a lot of people believe in something that indicates that a lot of, you know, things from 10,000, 20,000, 70,000 years ago were not real necessarily. That's unfortunate, because I think if you allow yourself to tap into those things, you can realize like where you come from. Basic source of who we are.
And how much of that makes us who we are. So much of us that we can deny or...
And maybe how much we don't need to evolve. Like, do we need to keep pushing the envelope? Can't we just be fishermen?
Yes. Some people are just really, really happy. Just fishing for what they need for the day. And then that's it. And I'm constantly in a battle with myself about that. Constantly looking at my schedule and being like, wait, did I want to be this busy? What was the reason I put this much on my schedule? And then it was like, oh yeah, I thought that, maybe I
this
needed
is
to be
what I
making money. I thought
wanted.
that that's what success was. And I got a little wrapped up in that instead of just being like, what do I want my day-to-day life to look like?
Yep.
So back into balance, and I'm just constantly swinging like a little pendulum like that.
Yeah, I've recently been trying to convert my husband to the idea that we don't retire with money, right? We don't need to retire. We
may not
subscribe to this notion of having a lot of money to retire. It's just a mental construct that I don't necessarily feel I need to fall into. So I'm slowly but surely getting my husband on that end with me. Is let's retire and go live off the land somewhere.
Because truthfully, even all the hard work that you put into it and all of the, maybe the savings and things, there are no guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people in my parents' generation that worked so hard, saved so hard, sacrificed so much, and they lost everything. And they're like, they, used up their savings during COVID just to survive, or they're, and they're forced to retire because no one will hire a 65, 70-year-old, at this point. So they're like in a situation where they're like, okay, so what was it all for? I'm still in a position where I have to figure it out. And
I am still without.
I'm still without. Yeah. So
I think our
could it have been that your 30s and 40s and 50s were like enjoyable?
Yes. Our notion of comfort is make-believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's built on
that's really scary for a lot of people. But I think if you get comfortable or feel a little more comfortable with uncertainty, you realize it's not the worst thing in the world.
Right.
It's okay.
I found out something about myself during COVID. I thrived. Like
good.
I thrived during turmoil. Mm-hmm. And I think there's probably a lot more that can be tapped into there. I know there's a lot of childhood issues there. But anyways, back to the now. I through COVID, I felt alive, and I knew that I could survive and thrive and do very well in that situation. I did, I think I have a strange desire, maybe not desire, but comfort with discomfort. Like when we had the earthquake, I was ready to go. Like I was like, okay, I'm already prepared for COVID. Let's just adjust a little bit.
I remember that being such a big deal here in Utah, that everything shut down. Everybody was home. Then we had this earthquake that was something we were not used to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember being like, well, the world's ending. Well. Here we go. I don't remember panicking or like feeling, totally shook. I just was like, well,
yeah.
What else? Bring it on. I don't know.
Yes. Here we go. A level of like, well, we're already ready.
Yeah.
But I think I was already ready before a lot of other people were. I was already ready for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta for that family. But, as I splash all my ink everywhere. Edit that out.
Keeping all of it in.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of me is like, oh man, I wish we could have some crazy situation again where I'm like feeling great on top of the world.
Yeah. I thought that it would really be a catalyst for change. And maybe it is. Maybe it's just taking time for the universe to catch up. But the idea of, hey, maybe we all work too hard.
Slow down.
That like the time people got to spend at home with their family because they had no other choice. It was like stay home,
that is exactly,
work from home.
Yes.
And then everybody went, oh my gosh, I am working for someone else.
Not for my
life away.
Good,
yeah. And I feel like people really shifted. They were like, time with family is where it is at, where it's important, or time for myself and my hobbies and things I love to do, because we were forced to be like, you can't go anywhere. You can't go, you can't be distracted. You have to sit with your stillness and your boredom. And I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought this is it.
Yep.
This is what the earth needs. We need a cleansing. We need a flood or a fire. We need a big cataclysmic event.
Not that I want people to be hurt, right?
I just wanted a shift. I wanted something to force us into a shift. So yeah, it's obviously unfortunate, all of the harm and the, when something really terrible happens and all the people are affected. The casualties of an event like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the demented one who's like, I did really well.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
The situation.
But that's a strength of character in, for people who maybe have been through trauma or have been through things in their life. It's like, this is where I shine.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm sorry about you guys.
Fine. Yeah. But we look to those people and go, help us through this. Like, lead us through this. For the people whose lives were maybe a little too cushy.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. They're panicking. Like, help. Now what?
Yeah, I think this is going to go really deep. Being a child with trauma, I made pain my ally. It was kind of one of those things that was like, oh, okay, well, I'm feeling pain from this. So I'm going to control it instead. Like, I'm not going to let it hurt me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Disassociating is part of that too, right? So
yeah,
I think tattoos was definitely a symptom of that. Like, ooh, I like this pain. This makes me feel alive. Instead of being broken down, I'm being created into some art piece.
That's an interesting, it's like a whole other perspective of it too. I feel like I looked at it for myself. I don't like to be uncomfortable. Not one who would should go out in the cold and suffer. And
the cold is where I draw the line.
I'm chilly. I'm going to go inside. I've always been kind of a baby about that stuff. But I thought about when I was facing childbirth and how I felt about that, and was like, oh man, I'm so ready. I'm so just put me in, coach. I'm ready. Yeah, and then being like, I get to move through that experience with everything that's going to feel like, and then, be rebirthed as a mom on the other side. And then the tattoo, knowing that's not going to be comfy.
Yeah.
Which, even right now, it's like a little prickly.
There's some discomfort.
A little discomfort. Yeah. Nothing I can't handle, but I'm I'm also not opting to get a tattoo in a place that's really painful either.
Got them all over. I'm like, oh, I want to get on my face next.
The people that have them behind their ears or somewhere that I think, oh, there's a lot of cartilage there. Yeah. I'm like, ooh. Yeah. Not that I wouldn't do it. I might, but.
So here's the thing is I like the mental space that I have to be in to get through it. It's a comfortable place for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feeling all those endorphins and all the dopamine and everything happening, the adrenaline. That's a weird, fun place to be.
Yeah. I could see that.
Maybe that's something that's passed down too.
The excitement and the way that you get that.
Like I'm ready to go into battle almost.
Yeah.
That sounds really weird, but in Polynesia, our ancestors were very much battling. There was a lot of war and a lot of conflict, while there was a lot of beauty and, growing culture that, that's exactly what kind of fueled it. Is the movement through the islands there was conflict between chiefs and, village leaders, and
that's what warrior spirit.
So there is a level of living in a stagnant experience of life is a very unnatural thing, I think, for everybody, but particularly people who are coming from cultures that are still new to the modern era.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was only 2 generations ago where, I don't know, it was living a lot more hard and difficult.
Yeah.
And even here in the US, there's a level of difficulty that was happening 2 generations ago. Different, right? But
I know, it's crazy to think about how really very new this country is, and in the way that it looks now.
The US is just an angsty teen.
Just a little angsty teen going through its stuff. That's a nice way to look at it. Voila. Ooh, nice.
I went a little bit farther into touching up than I was necessary, but it was like I really
She got in the zone.
really got in the zone there. I feel like I'm going to hit that little guy real quick, and then we'll be ready to move on to the other side. Do you think you're done with tattoos?
I have no idea. I feel like I'm good for now, but never say never, right?
Just be careful not to fall off the edge of mindless tattooing.
Yeah.
Do you think
that's something I don't think I will do, but I would be careful about, because it took me so long to feel ready. I don't have anything in mind like I did going into this. I obviously I thought about this for so long. I know I won't regret it because it never changed.
Always been there.
Yeah. So maybe I just need enough time to be like, I know this is what I want, and I've never not wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
I feel like maybe it would be a weird thing to be a tattoo artist and tell somebody not to keep getting tattoos, right?
Well, just be intentional about it. Just be intentional. It's a good idea. Yeah. And for sure, if anybody's looking to get a tattoo, you are going to want to seek Liberty out soon, because she's going to be so busy that she's going to have to raise all of her prices, and you guys are not even going to get in. It's going to be too... In fact, don't even try. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, very soon...
Nah.
I was very lucky to get in.
Let me just say that I get to do this for passion. Like, I'm lucky where this is a burning passion for me.
Yeah. That's what it should be.
So getting the work that feels right is important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to make sure that I'm the right person for everybody that comes in and sits on this chair. And vice versa, that we're doing we're in the right place for our own journeys, right?
Yes.
So my passion is not pushing me to be like, I gotta raise my prices because I can. Just know.
Yeah, it's a good place to be in.
I've got a good intention here. Yeah.
And that's what someone told me about even the work that I do in energy work. And, if I do charge money for it, it is my work.
Right.
But, and in being like, obviously I do a lot of charity work and giving things as well, but I am balancing that. But I was told in kind of business ethics when doing energy work is if it starts to become where you're like, I just can't do it anymore, without feeling kind of overworked, or like I'm feeling like, oh, I gotta go do this. Mm-hmm. Then it's time to raise your prices, because the energetic exchange
is taking more than
and that's how you can kind of know or feel it. Well, at the same time, I think it's really important to be available and to be like, okay, I also do certain sessions for people for free, or there's certain charity work that I reach out to, and that's part of it too. Leaving yourself open to that.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to let everybody know how to find you? And we'll finish up.
I am on I have your other arm, my girl.
Yeah, but we'll finish up the recording.
Oh, okay.
You guys get to see my my other tattoo later.
So I am at Exodus Tattoo. I can also be found on Instagram and we'll put my handles
Yes,
wherever those
they'll
are
be in the
gonna go.
show notes and the blog.
I'm also on Facebook and TikTok. I'm mostly on Instagram. That's my favorite space to engage and connect and communicate.
And maybe her own YouTube channel, podcast, all the things soon. We've been talking about all kinds of things. So I'm just going to tease that. Like, be ready. It's
I do
coming.
have a website.
Yes. It's on that.
I'll have it below, or she'll have it wherever. But contemporarytatao.com. You can look at some work there, request a consult there, and yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us on Practically Magic today, and I will follow up with the outro later. Bye. Hello, welcome back. We just got finished up with our tattoo appointment. I just got done with our wonderful discussion with Liberty. We continued to talk even after the recording stopped about so many amazing things that we have in alignment, talking about the cosmos, the shifts in energy, purpose, how she has such an amazing ability and gift that she's only begun to explore a little bit within herself, is to be able to see people's ancestral connections, and she really is quite a mystical person, even as she's just been able to recognize that within herself. And that's what I love so much about going to her for my first and second tattoo, is just that she takes such great care and consideration into all of the meanings behind it, and the experience of sitting in her chair is a healing experience in and of itself. So thank you so much, Liberty. She's listening to this recording later, but I had such an amazing time. Always have such a beautiful experience with her. And we got a chance to talk about a lot of different aspects of being a part of this community that we are in, and what it means to connect in such deep and vulnerable ways. So be friends with all of your local tattoo artists. I'm sure they're all got a story to tell, and they've all got kind of the come from of what brings them to what they do. But as for today, I have my Celtic tree that I have all done. The Celtic tree knot, which obviously is the tree of life symbol in many, many different mythologies, is very widespread in almost every culture. So I feel like that's kind of connecting not just to my Celtic ancestry and the familial lines of that, but also to humans and to science and the way that energy exists in the universe. But for me in particular, it was a very Celtic inspired tattoo, something that connects me to the healing work that I do and the storytelling work that I do in the realm of the Celtic tradition. And because my son's birth mom has a tattoo of our son's sun sign, Gemini, she had tattooed behind her ear shortly after he was born. I have since then always wanted to match that and have a tattoo at some point that matched what she got, just connecting us in that sense that we are both mothers to the son we have, and that I very much respect and honor her as his mother. And so I decided that his sign, the Gemini symbol, was really perfect for the inside of the tree. So I got that put inside, like the trunk of the tree and the Gemini. That seemed to all accumulate very nicely together. And then after many years, I had this idea in mind for a long, long time. But after that, I also connected very deeply with the Vicious Pisces symbol and on the chalice well. So if you are looking at the video on YouTube now, you can see that I had that same symbol. I have a necklace of that symbol as well. But when I was in Glastonbury, and obviously we stayed at the St. Michael's Inn, that is at the Chalice Well, and I was able to really spiritually and and everything else connect with that symbol and the chalice well. It was a really powerful experience for me. So to honor that, that is something that I was very much adamant about right from seeing that first thing. The symbol being kind of like a Venn diagram, but it's tipped to its side. So you have the circle above and you have the circle below. This is a very ornate example of that. Obviously, it's made out of wrought iron on the well itself, and it has the flowers at the bottom, and it has kind of an intricate design, which I thought would be beautiful as a tattoo anyway. So I wanted to copy that. But because I have my sun tattooed in the Celtic tree on one side, my other two suns are Cancer, and they have the Cancer, which is the crab. The symbol that is Cancer, it kind of has that same shape that really fits very nicely in the center of the Venn diagram. It's kind of that crab-like shape. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is just perfect. So I'm going to get that same exact image, but I'm going to have the Cancer symbol for my other suns in the center of that symbol as well. So if you can see it on the video, you'll see the Cancer is there in the middle. And so now I have tattoos that symbolize my calling, my purpose, initiating me into what I feel is the work of priestessing in my life, but also a little nod and shout out to my kids and having them be a tattoo in a tattoo as well. And so the first time I went to go see Liberty, we had lots of great conversations about where it came to getting that tattoo and where I came to the conclusion of that would be the thing that I get. If you had asked me maybe in my 20s if I would ever get a tattoo, I was in a place and time in my life where I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think I could ever love something enough or feel connected to an image so much that I would want it on my body forever. However, things change, people change. And the truth is, I know coming into this at this point in my life that this isn't something I would ever regret getting or having. I did think, when I was younger, tattoos were like, what if it's kind of like when you're a kid and you get a backpack of something you really love at that time, but by the next school year, you're not really into that thing as much anymore. And I thought of it as there could never be anything that I would be so into that it would be timeless, that I would never not be into it. For those who knew me in high school, middle school, I would have gotten a tattoo of X-Files. That was my end all be all. X-Files was everything to me. Loved X-Files, the show, so much. So I would have had X-Files tattoos on me, and I still love X-Files. I think it's a great show. Still watch it sometimes when I'm, feeling nostalgic. But the truth is, I don't think I would have loved a tattoo of X-Files on me now. So I do think that this is something that for me is part of the initiation process in feeling like I have come into myself and into a place. Although I'm never going to just arrive at a place where I'm an ordained priestess with someone else's authority bestowed upon me. The fact of the matter is, priestessing is something that is just a calling through life that we do. We are people devoted to serving self, serving others, and serving source. And that is where I feel that as long as I continue on that path, I'm allowed to call myself priestess. And I do. I have given myself that title. And I think that that's the way that it should be. So hopefully this has given you some experience into what this process could be like, who you meet and the experiences that you have with them that can be much more than ordinary. That even tattooing, which some people engage with as just an aesthetic thing where they're just getting art being put on their bodies. Everything that we do, no matter what it is, no matter what we engage in day to day or our mundane activities, that we can find connection spiritually and emotionally through those experiences. So I hope that you go through your day after listening to this episode and say, how can I make this day magical and important and sacred in some way? So I want you to think about that as you go through it and be the magical person that you are. Find the magic and find the mystical in this day today. So go make magic, witches and wizards, and we'll see you next time.